Greetings, Captains. I am Wizard, and welcome to my first fully modded Starfield ship build guide. This is the Kronos. It is a Class C battle cruiser inspired by ships from the Halo series, as well as the Javelin from Star Citizen. This ship is 130 meters long by 82 meters wide, and it's 7 Hab module units tall. So this is by far my largest ship thanks to mods, but it's still not my heaviest. That title goes to the Slab. It has over 15,000 base cargo with 100 mobility and a base top speed of 200. It also has 6.8 thousand hull HP and 5.2 thousand base shield HP, thanks to the twin DarkStar shield modules that are equipped. It also has 30 total weapons installed, 8 of which are turrets, and to power everything, the ship needs twin DarkStar reactors. Also, thanks to those reactors, all this weight is moved by a double stack of Poseidon-style DarkStar engines. They have the same power requirement as the vanilla engines, so they require twice as much power as I have twice as many of them. The approach that I took for this build was the same approach that I took for the original Basilisk, my very first Starfield vanilla ship build. I wanted to achieve maximum ship size as well as all-around maximum performance, including cargo capacity. Now, I also took an approach similar to the Citadel at the same time, which was to build in everything to the ship that you could ever possibly need in a playthrough. So it has every Hab module unit, and then some cool extras as well. So this is effectively a giant mobile base. Now before we get into this build, I would also like to mention that if you haven't joined my Discord server already, I would love if you would join us over there and be a part of my growing community. Also, if you want to donate to my channel more directly, I have links to my Patreon and my PayPal for one-time donations. Thank you very much. If you've just found my channel, welcome. If you're new to Starfield, you might be interested in my Outpost Guide playlist, where I showcase some great locations for home bases like Indigo Ridge, and I also show you a great way to make credits on demand, and this Vitinium mine can also be expanded to create a passive source of credits in the game. Along with the Outposts, I also have my vanilla ship build playlist, where I have an entire fleet of completely vanilla, full ship build guides of varying ship styles and classes, from fighters to corvettes to destroyers and heavy cargo ships. There's sure to be something that you like in there. And then I also have started my modded ship build guide playlist. Check that out for the Krakatoa, and of course, this ship, the Kronos, my first fully modded ship build in Starfield. And on top of those, I also have my Becoming a God playlist, which is now 3 episodes of combat and action gameplay. And the series is starting with a character that has absolutely no combat skills, and I am trying to achieve the acquisition of every combat skill, as well as all of the Starborn powers. So go and check that out if you're interested in some high-action gameplay. To build the Kronos exactly as I do in this build guide, you'll need to be at character level 93 if you're in NG plus 8, or character level 103 if you're in NG plus 1. That is for the DarkStar reactors used for the ship. You'll also need 1.28 million credits, and that's at Commerce rank 4, and with DarkStar VIP mode turned off. So you can build this ship for much cheaper if you choose to go that route. My vanilla builds all included mission completion requirements, but we no longer need to worry about that as we have mods. But that does mean that I have to go over the mods used so that you can achieve this ship as well. Otherwise, you won't be able to build it. So the mods required for the Kronos are of course DarkStar Astrodynamics, and we use the 2-story hab from Matilija Aerospace in this build. You also absolutely need placed doors yourself, otherwise good luck with your door and ladder placement. We also need a no reactor limit mod, so you can equip more than one reactor. No engine power limit for the same reason, no shield power limit for the same reason, and no weapon power limit for the same reason. This ship is well beyond the vanilla module limit, so you'll need a shipbuilder module limit remover, as well as a ship size limit increase, and I have chosen to go for a 1.75 times ship increase, which gets us to 130 meters. Ship module snap and flips expansion, or SMSEX, is absolutely crucial as well. As you can see, even from this shot, there are parts that shouldn't be flipping in the way that they do. And then you'll also need shipbuilder tolerance tweaks, because in a few hidden places, I do clip some parts into each other, and it's much easier without using glitches. At the end of episode 3 of Becoming a God, I entered my very first Unity. Now, I strongly dislike the Starborn Guardian ships. I think they are too limiting, and I wish we could customize them and have parts like these available to us. So the first thing I did was land at New Atlantis and go and build myself a DarkStar Terminus so that I could build the ship of my New Game Plus dreams. So I grabbed the Frontier, and once I found a suitable location near to New Atlantis for convenience purposes, I headed right over to the builder after rewarding myself with some credits through console commands. I've already shown you guys a few ways you can make credits, so I don't feel too bad doing this now. So let's enter our builder, build enhanced ships, select your Frontier or any other ship you choose to start with. There's absolutely no requirement for starting ship. Highlight the entire ship as usual and go right ahead and delete it. Now we're going to start with our landing bay, and initially I chose a 120 LD. I do not want a row of Habs on the very bottom of the ship, but I do end up changing this later to a Hope 4, so if you want to start with that, you can save yourself a little bit of time. The very first Hab that I'm choosing to attach to the landing bay is the Matilija Aerospace 3x3x2 security workroom, and I want the landing bay to enter into the middle of that Hab module, and then I'm going to place a 110 DP Deimos docker right behind the landing bay. Now just behind the docker, I chose to go with a DarkStar XL11 Tayo belly landing gear, which has 4 lander thrust. Now just behind that, we want to attach a Nova Cowling 2LBA to clean up the underside of the ship. Now with the Place Doors Yourself mod, anywhere except for landing bay to a Hab module, you need to manually place a door. Now, when you scroll over to your Habs section, you'll notice at the very top you have these 2 sections here. Doors are on top, and ladders as well. So the way I do this is if the door is behind where you initially enter the ship, they should be the door aft variant. So before we attach any Habs to this door, let's go ahead and quickly duplicate this and move it out of the way. And attached to the first door, we want a HopeTech 3x1 engineering bay. And now, as you will see, instead of having to scroll all the way back up through to get another door, I can just grab the one that I duplicated and attach it here, and then move on to the next Hab module we want, which is a HopeTech 2x1 armory, because it includes the holding cell. Right behind that, we need a Deimos belly. And now you get to see why I suggest duplicating your doors, because now I have to scroll back up through my Hab tab to get back to the doors. So again, here a door aft because it's behind the entry point of the ship, and I'm learning my lessons here and duplicating a couple of those for later use. So on the upper level of the Matilija 2x1, we want a 1x1, and I went with a Stroud storeroom. And this is where our main ladder stack inside of the ship is going to be. And then just above the ladder, or going into, I guess, is a 2x3 mess hall, and before we place that, of course, we need to add a ladder marker. So top of your Habs section, place a ladder. Then we can go ahead and duplicate that, or when it needs to be used next. Move the 2x3 mess hall into place, and then put the ladder, the next ladder I should say, right above the previous one. Now on the front of the port and the starboard sides, we want to go ahead and place door 4s because they are in front of the entry point of that deck. And then back here, we're going to move our duplicated doors to the back side of the 2x3 mess hall. Now going back to the front of the ship, I also want to duplicate this door into the places where it needs to be. So on each side of the upper and lower decks of the Matilija Hab, you need a door. And then we can go ahead and start attaching Habs to the front of the ship. So on the upper deck, in front of the 2x3 mess hall, we want a Deimos 2x2 living quarters. And make sure it is offset in this way. And then go ahead and duplicate one of your doors up to the outboard side of that 2x2. Now here we're going to add a side door, and this is going to be starboard because obviously it is on the starboard side of center of the ship. And you can attach this one in any way, it doesn't matter. I use attach still just for convenience, but we need a Deimos 2x1, and we're going to use an armory. Now go ahead and copy another door up to the front of that. And then let's go to the back of our ship and set up the core. So you can probably tell now that our core window is going to be just behind our main ladder and our mess hall. I used two DarkStar XR62C Unity core reactors here. And the one in the back I wanted to look like the Pinch 8Z because I love the finish of it. And then just in front of the first reactor, we can place our grav drive so that we'll be able to see the armillary once we gather more of those pieces. So there's that there. Now, I tried doing this initially, but a window using place doors yourself didn't work on the back of the mess hall. I really wanted it to, but it just didn't. But before we add stuff to the inside of our core, let's go ahead and get more of our Habs placed. So just above the mess hall, we need a 2x2 Deimos battle stations. And then we can move that ladder up to where the bridge is going to attach. So you can see this is offset from the main ladder stack, but I did that for a reason, so that the bridge felt more like, the end point inside of the ship versus being straight up and down. It's still pretty easy to get in and out of. Now, on the side of the Deimos 2x2 battle station, we want a Deimos 2x1, but we need a door first, of course, another starboard door. And I used attach on the front point of this because at this point I knew where it was going to attach. And I'm going to choose a workshop. Now on the back of the 2x2, we're going to place our Hope Tech Captain's Quarters. And just behind that is going to be the Captain's personal Stroud Eklund Armory. So Stroud 2x1 Armory. I did a workshop here, but I changed it to an armory. I changed it to an armory, dude. Okay. And just a quick warning, I did offset the upper deck incorrectly, so I do go back and correct that after I take a few more steps. So the lower deck off of the front of the Matilija Hab, on the starboard side we want a science lab and an infirmary. And I chose the Stroud Habs for the lower deck because I felt that they kind of matched the interior of the Matilija Hab. And on the port side, we of course want an armory and a workshop. And these are the main armories and workshops for our crew, or more accurately, the security personnel of our crew. And you'll understand that once we do the walkthrough. Now, just above those Habs, off the front of the Matilija Hab again, we can do a Nova Galactic 2x2 all-in-one, and then a Nova Galactic 2x2 living quarters. That's the one with the pool table, and you know I had to include that, just like my other ship builds. On the opposite side of the Nova 2x2s, we're going to use two Deimos 2x2s. Now, I wanted another brig in the ship, so in this case, I did a 2x2 Deimos computer core, and just in front of that, I went with the Deimos brig. Now, later in the video, I do end up switching these around where the Nova is on the starboard side and the Deimos is on the port side, but that's easy to do later if you want to keep following along. Now, just above the 2x2s, on the starboard side, I want a Deimos Engineering Bay, I believe A, yes, Deimos Engineering Bay A, empty 3x1. And that's going to be the shooting range. On the opposite side of that, I went with a Deimos all-in-one berth 3x1. So there's the ship as it is now. And I do end up switching those around, but just go ahead and keep following along. Thanks to the Place Doors Everywhere mod, it is very easy to change your hab choices after you initially build, and you don't have to worry about ladders and doors moving to places you don't want them. Now, right behind the mess hall, we need a Nova Galactic 2x1 all-in-one berth B, and then I did a Nova Galactic 2x1 living quarters on the other side. Now, the only thing we are missing for our hab layout is our bridge. And I already have the ladder unit placed up there, ready to go. So now we can move up here, and using attach again to limit our choices and save time, move to the cockpits section and attach a Kontiki B600 bridge. This bridge works wonderfully for a ship with a split nose design, and that is the hab module layout complete. Now that the hab module layout is complete, we can begin to shape this ship and get the design looking good. So to start, we'll go to the nose and add two 30T hauler cargos to each of the upper 3x1 hab modules. I like them next to the Deimos hab modules. They have that nice angle that matches. And then in front of those cargo holds, you want to scroll down in your structural tab and find the Deimos cowling. You want 2 4 bottoms on the top and 2 4 Deimos cowlings on the bottom. Then you want to take those 2 lowers, duplicate them, and move them to either side of your bridge on the deck below. Now on the back of the ship, take this Deimos belly and flip it over and move it up. Then just behind the wide hab modules on the nose of the ship, we need to place 2 Nova Cowling 2L. This one's the SA, starboard aft, and then we need a port aft on the other side, and just in front of those, we need 2 Deimos hull A's. You could use cargo modules here if you want, but I like the way that these add that little bit of an angle to the outside shape of the ship. It makes it look a little bit less chunky. Take those 2 hull A's and duplicate them and move them up to the front of those habs, and then you want to flip a Nova Cowling around to the 2LPF and 2LSF orientations and put those on front of the ship. And we're almost at the maximum length that we're going to hit. See, we're showing 64 front and rear, but now you want to take one of those hull A's and duplicate it twice and move it to the outside of each of the Nova Galactic 2x1 living hab modules. Now these Deimos bellies are clutch for this build. These are going to be our engine mounts. I'm going to flip one around so that it's on the port side of the ship and the starboard side of the ship angled downwards like this. And copy those and flip them around to be the opposing angle with their attachment point on the opposite side. Now we want to do the same thing, but symmetrically opposed above. So 2 angled upwards, and then you can copy the 2 upward angle top ones and move them up into their respective orientation and locations. And we have our upper and lower engine mounts. Now duplicate the appropriate belly and place one above and below the back of the Nova Galactic 2x1. Like so, and like so. That big stanchion is our outer engine mount on each side. So we have our engine mounts started. We can continue on. So now I'm realizing that my upper deck is incorrectly positioned. So now I'm going to show you what to do when you make a mistake and you're using the Place Doors Yourself mod. I'm going to select all of these, and of course our doors aren't selected because we can't see them, but this is where we want all of this to be. So first I need to get this out of the way so that I can replace all of the doors in the right spots. This ladder is still going to be here, but I need to place a 1x1 for that ladder to enter into. So let's move these 2 Habs out of the way, as well as the side Hab off of the battle station. We're also going to move our bridge so that we can take our ladders and doors and put them back. Here's our ladder to the bridge. Then we have an aft door. We have this starboard door that we need to put back onto the battle station. And we can move the workshop back into place. And now we can add the 1x1 that we need the ladder to enter into. So on the back of the battle station door, we want to find a Deimos storeroom 1x1. Give it a door, reattach the Hope Tech captain's quarters, and then grab this leftover door and put it on the back, and then reattach your Stroud armory. And we can put our bridge back in place, and now we can select all on this assembly and move it back with the 1x1 over where the ladder was before. That is actually where those things go, and now we're actually done with our Hab module layout. So before we close up our core window, we need to add our details in here. So I'm just going to move one of the Nova Galactic Habs out of the way. And thanks to Place Doors Yourself, anytime you want a window, you also have to place a shutter, or in the case of a ceiling and door, you just place a hole. So find your hole and place a top porthole above it. And same thing on the underside of the captain's quarters, we need a hole upright, and then we can attach the porthole to that. Now, as I mentioned before, I couldn't get a window on the back of the mess hall. The Place Doors Yourself mod made the whole section of that wall disappear around it. So we're going to do a rear-facing core window on the back of the 1x1 just below the mess hall. It's not as glamorous, but it does work. So we need an aft shutter, and then we can attach a porthole to that. Now we can get our shields in here, and we are using 2 shields. Let's find your shield tab, and in this case, I chose to go with the DarkStar XD A12B shield, as I didn't want to equip a full 24 power to my shields. So that goes on there like so, and we can move this back into place. with no worries about moving around any doors or ladders. So there's our 2 shields in there. Now, I also wanted a porthole on the front, and we are going to add more detail around this. But just like any other hab, you do need a shutter there. This was before I realized that I would need a shutter, considering that hab is from the Matilija mod. But Place Doors Yourself also took away the auto door placement from the Matilija mods as well, apparently. So I will add it later, but go ahead and put the 4 shutter before you place that front window. Now, as our base for our engines, we are going to use 2 of the 500T HE3 tanks in each of the positions. You see me attaching them here. And later on, we do change those out for some cargo units, but you know, that's an easy thing to do. So for now, we're going to leave those there. Now, I want to get some more landing gear equipped here, and on the nose, just below the front Stroud 2x1s, I chose the DarkStar XL02 Deimos bellies because they have 5 lander thrust, and again, we need as much as we can get for a ship of this size, so we don't have to line the entire underside of the ship with landing gear. Now, on the underside of the fuel tanks, front fuel tanks, I should say, on the lower engines, we need an attachment point for our other landing gear. So we need 2 Stroud Cap Cs in the aft bottom position, and here I am just placing all of the Stroud Cap Cs that we're going to need on the underside of all of the fuel tanks. 6 of them like so. And now we can go around to the front attachment point of those. And on the outer and upper engines, we want to place another Stroud Cap, but this time the Stroud Cap B in the 4 bottom position. We want to place those again on the upper and the outer engine nacelles. The bottom nacelles are going to get the same landing gear as we placed in the center of the ship. So copy this XL11 and move it over to each of the lower engine's nacelles. Now, to finish those off and give them a bit more of a nose look, we're going to use the Deimos bellies flipped into their 4 orientation. Just like that, and 1 on each side. Now, to get these engines completed, we also need to add some other things. Number 1, we want to get Stroud braking engines positioned just in front of the fuel tank stacks. That way, when the ship is decelerating, it has some visual reverse thrust happening from within those engines, and I think it looks really cool. So now, on the opposite side of the actual engine mount points, we want to start to build the outer shape of our nacelles. So we want to find the Nova Cowling 2L TM in the side starboard mid orientation. And then, of course, on the other side, we need the side port orientation for these. But again, just like the other side, they are opposite of the actual engine mount points on all 3 of the nacelles. Once you have those placed, you want to build the nose shape of those. So you need the Nova Cowling 2L BF side port 4 variant of the Nova Cowling, and then the side starboard 4 variant out on the other side. These are going to allow us to add an attachment point going through the Stroud braking engines so that we can attach the opposite side of those cowlings. So highlight the rear attachment point of one of those and you want to find the Deimos. Oh, what is it called? The Bracer A. Find your Deimos Bracer A. Once you have the first one placed, just duplicate it and move it down into position such that it is clipping right through the Stroud braking engines. And this is something that you never see in the end. You know it's there, but you can't tell what's going on with it, so I didn't mind using this clipping method in this case. So once those are placed, go ahead and copy each of your Nova cowling nose pieces and move them to the opposite side, attached to that Deimos bracer that you just positioned. And of course, none of this would be possible without all of the mods that I'm using. And thank you to all you modders out there, if any of you are watching, for giving us players a whole lot more freedom with our creativity because of the increased possibilities of what we can build. I really appreciate all of you guys' work. Now, to get the nose caps onto the top of these engines, we need to do the same as we did for the underside and add the attachment point that it will go on. So duplicate one of your Stroud Cap Cs and move it up to the top orientation, and then go ahead and cap off each one of your engines with the Stroud Cap Cs. This will allow the attachment of your Stroud nose caps. And with that done, let's go ahead and build our engine mounts so that we can add thrust to these nacelles that I've built here. So grab one of your Nova cowling nose pieces and flip it around to the aft orientation. And put one of those on the back of each of your nacelles on both sides of the ship. And don't do what I do here and just duplicate one side of these. Grab all 4 of those and move them over and save yourself a lot of time. Watch me now have to duplicate one at a time and flip it. Great job. Yes, like that. With those in position, we can get our engines on, and normally in a vanilla build, you would be forced to use Class C engines. But thanks to DarkStar and the No Engine Power Limit mod, I'm able to equip as many of any engines I want on my ships. So I'm going with the Class A DarkStar Poseidon X01A engines, and 6 of these allow for an incredible amount of cargo capacity. And they actually require 3 power each, so this isn't a double stack, as I incorrectly mentioned before, but they do require 18 power, just like our shields that we chose. And now you can see I can quickly and easily duplicate all of my nose cap Bs into position, attached to the Stroud Cap Cs just behind them. Now our engine nacelles are almost complete. One little final touch I like to add to the front of these is the Stroud Engine Bracer B, as it is a perfect way to basically call attention to the fact that it's an intake, but it also goes just in between the thrust animations of the braking engines that are just behind them. So I thought this was a great level of detail, something that I haven't seen anyone do before. You can see those braking engine thrust cones in there. Now those are basically complete. There's just a couple little finishing details that I want to add to those, so that will be forthcoming. But just giving a quick overview of where we're at currently. Grab a nose cap C and place it on top of the ship back there. And now just behind the upper deck of the ship, we need Stroud Cap A's on each side here, just like this. Kind of ties into the angle of the engine mounts, but also gives the back of the ship that tapered look. Go ahead and duplicate those down to the underside of the ship as well, to give it that same kind of tapered look back there. Now to close off our core window area and also continue on with the taper of the ship, right in this open spot here, we need to find a Stroud nose cap C and flip it around to the port aft and port starboard aft orientations. Now moving to the back of the ship, we can add some final shape details back here as well. Scroll up to your Deimos section and find the bumpers. First, you want one of the 2L starboard mid bumpers on each side in between your upper and lower engine mounts. And then just behind that, you need the bumper, what do they call it? The cap piece. Starboard, yeah, just the Deimos bumper, I guess. Here and here. And then move those just above and forward on the upper and lower of the ship. The normal bumper, move it forward one space and down, and to the other side so that it's just behind the lower engine mounts. Now we're also going to take one of each of those and attach them to the front of those lower engine mounts. I had a little bit of difficulty knowing which orientation we were in, so I just moved it out here to flip it, and that's what we need. Place that right here. And then duplicate that one and move it to the other side. Just like that. Okay, that's the back of the ship mostly completed. Now to fill this up, you need 2 Stroud engine bracer Bs. And then this is where I'm going to place all of my shielded cargo. So I'm using 4 of the 200 cm ballast shielded cargo units here. 2 on each side. Of course, you can't duplicate 2 and flip them at the same time. So flip them and attach them. I think that looks very cool. Nice little detail back there. Now let's finish off our outer engine mounts with some more Deimos bellies to complete that sort of void that was left there and make it look a little more solid. So all you have to do is duplicate the right Deimos belly that you've already placed and move it over to the inside of your outboard engines on the top and the bottom. And that's done. Now we have a lot of work to do on the nose of the ship, so let's move up here and start getting this in order. First thing we want to do is add Deimos radiators to the front of those top Deimos cowlings. And just in front of those, find the Deimos spine E. Sorry, first we want the spine C. And then in front of that, we want the Deimos spine E. One on each side, and they actually attach to the spine C's because those cargo units don't have attachment points on the top. So thanks to the snap and flip mod again for that one. Now on top of the Deimos cowlings, we need 2 Skeg B's. These attached to each other, and then in front of that, a Skeg A flipped upside down. Then you can take all 3 of those and duplicate them over to the other side. Now on the underside, since we're here, let's go ahead and add 2 Skeg A's to the back of our Deimos landing gears. And then moving back up to the nose, on the underside of the top Skeg A's, we're going to use spine F's and flipped around such that the angled corner is on the underside front of the unit, just like that. Nice way to bulk those features up And just behind those spines, we are going to use 2 more spine E's flipped in the aft orientation. The angle facing rearward to tie into the cowlings. Now we can take one of our Skeg B's, flip it over to the underside, and just like the top, we want 2 of the Skeg B's and 1 Skeg A in their normal vanilla orientation. Like so. Now we want another spine C on the nose of the lower ram features, and then spine B's just behind those. So those 4, we'll call them rams, battering rams. Those are complete. Now we just need to add a couple things to the outer battering rams. Number 1, a Deimos wing A, attached back here. And just in front of each wing A, we need a wing E. And I like the wider portion of it in the front. I think it ties into the wing A little bit better. So there's our nose features completed. We have a few other details. Take your radiators and flip them to the bottom orientation and add 2 just above and below the top 2. At this point, I decided to change my landing bay to the Hope 4, as I just felt the shape and the way that the inside of it feels suits a ship of this size much better. The only thing I hate about it is how the back doesn't quite fully make it to the end of the module unit, so it has that funny looking gap down there, but I am going to close that up with some more structural pieces. So kind of an opposing mirror to the top, we want Deimos spine C's just behind the bottom Deimos radiators. And then again, we want to go with a spine E. Let's scroll all the way down through all this stuff. Sorry, a spine B. Here and here. And just behind that, spine A's. Helps to tie in the taper on the back of the ship. Now to close up that gap, I went with 2 Deimos wing E's on each side, just like this. Easy. Now that gap isn't nearly as noticeable as it was before. Now for the center finishing of the ship, we want to copy these 2 Stroud caps and attach them above and below the porthole we put on the front of the Matilija Hab. And now we need to get the outside of the nose and the top of the ship finished up. So let's go to the top, as we've been neglecting it. I did a Stroud mid bracer in front of that Stroud cap that we duplicated, and then a Hope Tech radiator attached to that, and then duplicate your mid bracer again and attach it to the radiator. To finish off the lines of that radiator, I put a Nova radiator just in front of it. A Deimos radiator, and then of course the Deimos spine A's on the front and the back. Now on the outside of the Stroud bracers, we need a Deimos wing E, and in between them I chose to snap 2 more Deimos radiators in there, 1 on each side. It's a different way to close in that space. And I did end up flipping them so they're in their top orientation, and I also switched the top Deimos radiator for his spine later on. Now going back in here to our inner nose feature, I want to attach my ComSpike conduction grid and scan jammer, so I placed 2 of the Taio side cowlings, and they're the ones with the equipment attachments in there just like that. And then on the rear top attachment point of that Stroud nose cap, I placed an equipment plate. So now in here we have 3 attachment points So we can find our equipment tab and first go for the DarkStar XEQ subspace comm spike. And I like using the appropriate visual skin for these so I can tell which is which. So we have our comm spike there. Then we can attach our conduction grid here using the actual conduction grid module, model, like so. And our scan jammer can go opposite of the conduction grid using the scan jammer in-game model. Now I just took these Deimos wing E's and moved them in front of the Tayo side cowlings or side caps, one on each side to kind of visually shield the conduction grid and scan jammer. Now we can duplicate a couple of these spine A's to go on each side of the bridge and really finish that little space up a little bit better. And then we want to grab a Deimos bumper, put one here, duplicate and flip one around to here. And then same thing on the other side. And then of course we need the Deimos bumper mids in between those. One and two here and here, and duplicate and flip to the other side. Like so. Now the only major thing left is the cutaway portions for the turrets. Grab a couple more of the Deimos bumpers and put them just above the 2L Nova cowlings. And you'll also need two below. But first we will start placing our Deimos bellies. And you're going to go 3 of these on each side, top and bottom, because the 8 total turrets that we place go in between them. So now we have that nice tapered look from a front view on that section of the ship, which is exactly what I was trying to achieve. And here we can move these 2 bumpers on the underside of what I guess you could call the front wing feature. Place our Deimos bellies again. Copy our bumper. Fix our camera angle. And grab these. Duplicate them in their appropriate positions. And the bellies are all in place. Now this void underneath the bridge was bugging me, so wanted to find a good solution that added a bit of a functional aesthetic, and I liked that front Nova cowling there, the 1L version, kind of has those little pipes in it, just nice details. And then to finish off the nose, we need 4 Deimos spine C's in front of each of the forward Deimos bellies. And with that in place, the ship is mostly completed. I added a HopeTech marker here to kind of look like I guess you could say a communications array antenna kind of a thing. And I wish I had one that flipped to the underside. And then to really finish off these wings, I decided to first replace them with Galleon S204 cargo holds, because there was no other really good place to add my cargo. So now I'm going to get rid of the Deimos hulls that I was using to build, replace all 4 of them with the Galleon S204s. And now we want to cap the front and back of our wings to make them look more like big solid pieces. So these HopeTech nose structural modules are perfect for this, but they're kind of hard to select once you place them in with other parts. So I went ahead and duplicated 3 of them. Place these 2. Before you place this one, you want to duplicate it over to the other side also. And again, this is the HopeTech Nose A in the aft orientation. And look how much more finished that wing looks on the other side. Again, duplicate the one you'll need later before you place these. Now you can get them into position. And once they're in there, you really don't even notice the clipping. So just like the totally invisible bracers inside of the engines, I didn't mind the way that this clipping looked at all because it was really hard to see. We're also going to add some port 4 and a starboard 4 Deimos bumper just to the inside front of those wings to give them a little more of a structurally integrated look. Now, just like the rear, we need HopeTech Nose A's to cover up those storage units. 1 and 2 here. And 1 and 2 here. Just like that. And now, other than some minor finishing touches that I'm going to place in the next section, we are now going to add in the cargo inside of our engines because 10,000 just wasn't enough. So, removing the front fuel tanks from the outer engines, we can duplicate a couple more of these galleon cargo holds, move the Stroud caps back into place, and do the same thing on the upper 2 engines. Select both of these Stroud caps, replace the forward fuel tanks, and then replace the Stroud caps. And now you can see the full capacity of our cargo hold on the Kronos has reached nearly 16K. So this thing, it's going to be tough to fill up unless you're doing a lot of material extracting. Now we can see we have an error, and it's just that we don't have enough landing thrust. So I just moved the bottom Nova cowling out of the way to add a second XL11 Tayo belly landing gear. And to fully finish off the engines, the uppers and lowers have this little space that looks disconnected. So I used Deimos Wing Ease to close those up. And that is the nearly completed Kronos. The only thing we have left to do is add our weapons and a few finishing details on the rest of the ship. And I would recommend at this point that you exit your builder as there are no errors and go ahead and save your game before you take the next steps. Now with the builder checks cleared and a save created just in case, we can move on to attaching our weapons and putting the finishing touches on the Kronos. So first what I want to do is add some windows because we have space for them. So on the forward attachment point of the 2x2 battle stations, we need a shutter in the port orientation. Go ahead and duplicate that to the rear attachment point of the mess hall and place one on the rear attachment point of the Matilija Hab. Then you can duplicate one and flip it to the starboard orientation and place 3 of them just like this. Then you just need to duplicate one of the port shutters and place it down here in the center of the ship, and one starboard shutter, place it just opposite of the port shutter you just placed, right here. And now we can attach our portholes or windows to the shutters. And you'll see when we get inside the ship, but the shutters actually do behave like shutters. You can open and close them as you please. So once you have a window on each side, you can duplicate them into each of the 3 positions in the center portion of the ship. And that's done. Now for the weapons. The first loadout that I chose was the first one that came to mind. And initially my goal was to equip weapons that would give me sustained DPS that is as close to being equivalent to the Vanguard Obliterators plus Exterminator 95 MEV autos and a ballistics DPS similar to the Vanguard Hellfires. I came across the Matilija weapons and these would look so cool, but they would exceed my maximum size. So these will have to wait for another build in the future, but I love the cannon look of those weapons. It's really, really cool. So for my first attempt at sustained DPS equaling burst DPS of the most powerful auto weapons in the game, I chose to go with 8 of the Exterminator 95 MEV Helion beams, which are the non-auto version of the weapon. So 4 on each side, and positioned in such a way that these nose features of the ship look like they are big, huge energy guns. I really think that's a cool feature. And for my ballistics weapons, I chose the Jishaku Einiko railguns, and I equipped 8 of these. And based on the calculations that I got from the very useful weapon DPS spreadsheet that I will have linked in the description, this is what I found would give me the sustained DPS that I was looking for. And you can see here that selecting 4 of them and duplicating all of them at once is not always the easiest way to go. So for the rest of the video, you'll see me duplicating one at a time and positioning them, because this becomes kind of a pain. But once you have those attached, those are the pilot guns. And then my first attempt at turrets was completely a failure. In order to attach these here, first you will need equipment plates in all 8 of the designated locations, and then you can place your turrets. Now, we know that the best turrets in the game are the Obliterator 250 MEV particle beam turrets, but I found very quickly that those turrets weren't working, whether it's because of the no weapon limit power mod or something else, I'm not sure, but some of the vanilla turrets just did not function. So here you're going to see me attach the Obliterator 250 MEV turrets in all 8 of the designated locations, and then I'm going to go out and test them. So when you're attaching turrets, you will need to flip the orientation 180 degrees when you're putting them on the underside of the ship. But that also makes it easy once you have one side completed to select 2 at a time and move the bottom turrets to the opposing top position and the top turrets to the opposing bottom position. And sometimes it doesn't quite work and you get one that snaps inside of the ship like that. So in that case, just move them out in space, place them, and move each one into position individually. And that is our starting weapons loadout. Now you can paint and name your ship and assign your weapons, and your build is complete. Now I would advise you, before you choose these weapons I'm choosing here, to keep watching the video and see all of my weapons loadout testing that I did, because you may see something in there that you like better, but also because, again, these turrets were bugged and didn't work. So I do end up changing them later on in the video. But for the paint on this ship, I, again, liked my tried and true black and gray the most. And before I start painting every object, I deselected the cargo modules, the shielded cargo modules, because I wanted to keep their natural finish. So here is my black and gray breakup, gray being the one that comes in your color palette, and the black being 4 clicks from the left in the brightness bar. So here is the Kronos in all of its glory. Now, of course, I love to see my viewers' versions of my ships, as well as your own original ships. And if you join my Discord server, you can post all of the photos from the game or anywhere else that you choose, really, so I invite you to join. I'm also going to be doing a ship build contest soon, so if you're interested in that, please join the server, as details will be forthcoming. Now, with my ship finished, I decided to run through the interior and check out the result, and pretty quickly found a couple of things that I was not happy with and that I wanted to change. Thankfully, that's easier now with the Place Doors Yourself mod, so I went back into my builder. And the first thing I wanted to do was switch the side that my forward 2x2 hab modules were located on. I want my Nova Habs on the starboard side, and I want the Deimos Habs on the port side. And when I do the interior walkthrough after this section, you'll see exactly why, but they just make more sense in this orientation. So since the doors are remaining in exactly the same place as they were before, all you have to do is select the Habs and switch their sides. The next thing that I found, as I mentioned earlier, was that I actually did need a shutter here for this forward porthole. So choosing the shutter in the 4 orientation, I can now replace the porthole on the upper deck of the Matilija hab module. Now the next thing that I wanted to change was the orientation of the 2x2 living quarters and 3x1 all-in-one berth. And I wanted to swap this with the Habs that I had placed on the other side. So grabbing the door for these two and switching them around first. And then I need to grab these two Habs, the armory and the empty engineering bay, and move them over here. And you see I also selected the starboard door at the same time, but it now needs to be a port door. So switch that over to a port and replace it on this side of the 2x2 living quarters. Now we can grab this door and reattach it where it needs to go in between these two Habs. Put them back together. And then move back over to your 2x2 assembly and move it to the starboard side of the ship, like so. Then selecting your port side assembly and moving it to the appropriate side as well. And we're done with that. So now we have our armory and empty 3x1 on the port side, and our 2x2 living quarters and 3x1 all-in-one berth on the starboard side of the ship. Now, I would call this ship absolutely complete, and I can give you a walkthrough of the interior so you can see for yourself what kind of changes that you would make, if any, to the interior choices that I've made. And after that, we will be taking the ship out and testing multiple loadouts to see what works best and what is too overpowered. As always with the ship complete, I'm going to now give you a tour of the interior, top to bottom, front to back, every hab module that I've placed. And after that, we are going to see how these weapons perform and make changes as necessary. So when we first enter the ship, we're greeted with this awesome 2-story cavernous hab module unit from the Matilija mod. I really like this. I dislike that my docker is in this little workshop room, but I can overlook that because it's not really impeding any foot traffic flow. So on the lower deck, just behind the Matilija hab, we have our HopeTech 3x1 engineering bay and our HopeTech 2x1 armory with the single holding cell in the style of a brig. So this would be for, probably our least dangerous bounties, because the upper the upper brig, I would say, is more secure. Now here's one of the window shutters, as I mentioned before. I think that adds a nice feature touch to the interior. And then one of the coolest things about this Matilija Hab is it has this security office built into it. And it just so happened that attached to this Hab module, through the security office, is an armory and a workshop, which makes perfect sense for role-playing purposes. Of course, you would want your security team to have quick and easy access to an arsenal of weaponry for defending the ship. So, I love this. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the ship, other than just this Hab module by itself, which is awesome. Great job to Matilija on that one. And then on the opposing side, entering directly in from the large space, is the science lab and infirmary, both also Stroud-Eklund 2x1 units, just like the armory and workshop on the other side. So that's the bottom deck of the ship. Now we can walk up stairs. Yes! No ladders in here. Love that. Open up our shutter, check out our view from the front window in here, which is great. It's sort of like a little pseudo core window, but also looking straight out of the nose of the ship. Look at all the space in here, man. We're going to be able to do so much with that. So now on the starboard side of the upper deck, we have our Nova 2x2 units. This one is the all-in-one berth, and you can see, if it was on the other side of the ship, that the flow would be totally broken up by those two rooms over here, and I really didn't like that, so that's why I moved them to the other side. And of course, through this Hab module, we have the 2x2 living quarters, which includes the pool table, and I actually think I would like to switch this Hab to be behind the other Nova Galactic 2x2. I think it would flow even better then. But for now, I'm going to leave it. It's totally good enough. You guys can switch that around if you wish, if you put those there, of course. So then on the port side, on the front of the upper Matilija Hab, we have the Deimos 2x2 computer core, which I think is an awesome Hab module, and I have not used it yet. So this was, I think, a great choice. And through the computer core, of course, we have the Deimos 2x2 brig with a nice window for the on-duty security officer so he doesn't feel too claustrophobic in here, monitoring these dastardly criminals that we capture. And by the way, I did download the Functional Brig and Infirmaries mod, so you may see some gameplay involving those very soon. Now we can walk back through our big Hab, again from Matilija Aerospace, and find our main ladder stack. And along with that, we have our core window, where the armillary will be clearly visible, and we can see both of our shield modules right there too. And there is a window facing up from the engineering bay, so it does kind of make sense. Now we enter into the Nova Galactic 2x3 mess hall, and as we know, on the back of each side of this we have two Nova Galactic 2x1 living quarters. This one is the living quarters, I believe, because on the other side we did the all-in-one berth B. But moving forward, we have our Deimos 2x2 living quarters, and you can see here again the reason why I flipped it to this side is because I wanted to enter into the larger living space and have the other two rooms be off to the side, leading to the armory and the shooting range that are over there. And this was the Deimos 3x1 all-in-one berth. And now we can move through this room, which kind of seems like a staging room. And we go straight into our Deimos armory. And this is our Deimos Engineering Bay A empty hab variant that I'm going to use as a shooting range when I'm testing weapons. Like I said, this is basically an all-in-one huge mobile base that you should be able to use for an entire playthrough without needing to build an actual home base. So then we go rear back into the 2x3 Nova mess hall and open another shutter, of course. And on the back side here, on the starboard side of the ship, we have the all-in-one Berth B 2x1 from Nova Galactic. And that is the main deck of the ship complete. Now we can move up to the command deck. And we are first going to move rearward in the ship into the Hope Tech Captain's Quarters. And here we see our floor porthole into the core of the ship. Cool feature for a captain to have, I think. And of course, we retained the big navigation console, which again, I think it's just a nice touch, good creature comfort. And then, of course, the captain's personal armory, which was the Stroud 2x1 hab module. So now we can move to the front of the ship. Take care not to fall through your ladder shaft there. And we come into the Deimos 2x2 battle stations. And just to the right, we have another workshop. This is a Deimos 2x1 workshop, and this is effectively meant to be for everyone but the security team. And also primarily captain's use. This ship was an absolute accomplishment. It has so many modules, it has so many features, and it is absolutely awesome to fly. I am stunned at what is achievable with a few mods, and I hope that those of you on console have enough mods available to you that you can achieve this build as well. I don't want you guys to miss out. So here's our Kentucky B600 bridge. And now that we have this badass ship ready to go, sitting on the pad, we can finally hop in the pilot's seat, or the captain's seat, if you will, and take this thing for a ride. As is tradition on my channel, the first place I want to go is Serpentis. I want to see how these weapons perform.
Are you prepared to face judgment?
Now already we can see that my turrets aren't doing anything. They should be firing at the ship over to the right now. Actually, both of them at this point. So it was immediately obvious that I needed to make a change to my turrets. My pilot guns are working well, but the thing I dislike about this loadout for my pilot guns is the slow rate of fire. So I decided to go back to my DarkStar Terminus on Jemison and make some changes. So let's enter the shipbuilder and see what else we can do. First, delete the turrets, because they aren't working. If they work for you, awesome. I really wish they would work for me, because they would be way more effective than the turrets that I end up choosing in the end, but they wouldn't be as effective as the DarkStar turrets. You'll see how nutty those are in a minute. So first, I chose to try the Eradicator 75 MeV auto neutron turrets to see if these are bugged or not. And once I have all 8 of these equipped, I keep my pilot guns the same, and I immediately go out and test if these turrets are working. So that's done. Make sure to assign them, and let's go test. Now right here it looks like they are firing, but they're actually not. Those are incoming shots from the enemy ships. So, of course, these turrets aren't working either, and we are going to have to go and make another adjustment as soon as I finish these off.
Damage sustained.
Arriving back at the terminus, let's get into our builder and again, delete these turrets. Now this time, I decided to try out the DarkStar turrets, and I knew these would be very strong, so I chose to start with the lowest tier DarkStar turrets that I have available to me, the MP07B Defenders, and I chose to give them the PBO 300 turret in-game model. I love the look of these. They kind of blend in with the dark gray and black. And then on top of that, I figured why not try the DarkStar pilot guns as well. Now these are the... It says they are burst. No, I'm sorry. These are the auto beams. So these have, you know, the depleting magazines. And for this build, I wanted to use, you know, non-autos that have each shot completely drain their magazine. And that way I would be forced to fully power those weapon groups and not lean on the fact that autos don't need to be fully powered to get the full DPS from them. So that was a balancing move that I was trying to make. But why not try them out anyway and just see how they do? Now, the number of weapons that I'm choosing is solely based on the amount of power that I have available and the fact that I want some dedicated power for my grav drive. So every time I switch these weapons, the first thing I do is go to my ship weapon systems and make sure I have some points left over for my grav drive. They're all full now. And holy crap. Look at the fire rate on these things. Oh my god. I knew these would be nutty, but holy cow. Let's just see. And wait till these turrets start firing. Oh man.
You shall be judged.
No joke, these weapons are a blast, and I'm going to show you a few more fights with them. I really want to use them, but they're so powerful.
You have victory! Taking damage! Aha! I'm offering for the great service!
Alright, so that was admittedly a blast, but I've got to try to find something that's a little bit more reasonable. So, this is not a reasonable choice, but I still wanted to try my old favorites. The Vanguard Hellfires and the Exterminator 95 MEV Auto Helion Beams, and just see how these compare.
Finish your suffering.
Are you prepared to face judgment? Let me show how it's done. I got the crossfire.
And again, that was great fun, but with those DarkStar turrets, it's still just too overpowered. I don't want it to be that easy. I just want a very powerful ship. So now I decided to go back to my original idea, which was non-auto weapons. So for this, I chose to find the highest rate of fire vanilla non-auto weapons and just equip as many as I needed to get to that sustained DPS that I was looking for. So 12 of the Disruptor 3310s and 10 of the Dangan W cannons is what I calculated to be equal to the burst DPS of my old original vanilla weapons loadout. And of course, 8 Disruptor 3320 neutron turrets are now on the ship as well. So hopefully they are not bugged. And again, I'll provide the link to that spreadsheet in the description of this video. So, to recap, we are going with 10 Dangan W cannons, 12 Disruptor 3310 proton beams, and 8 Disruptor 3320 neutron turrets. Now let's go to Serpentis and see how they do. Holy camera shake, Batman. We need a mod for that.
You shall be judged. Get our shield back quickly.
We end this now.
Now let me just switch to third person and see if our turrets are also working.
Great Serpentis. Blood.
Food for the great serpent.
Turrets are in fact working. They are not as effective as the DarkStar turrets, but that's okay. I mainly need them there to distract my enemies while I focus on other enemies. Now I also need to solve this camera shake issue, so I did download a no camera shake mod. And if you haven't noticed yet, when I'm in third person view, the distance that my camera is from my ship has changed a couple of times. So I did download a mod that increases the distance of the third person camera to your ship. Initially, it was further back, but I knew that when I started flying a smaller ship that it would look way too far out ahead of the camera. So I decided to go with the lowest setting of that mod, and I will provide a link in the description for both of those mods as well. But now we have our weapons decided upon. I like the way this loadout feels. It is of course powerful, but it's not too powerful for the vanilla game. And now it's time for the true combat showcase. Now before I give you the full combat showcase, I wanted to show you that I'm at level 152. Here is a final look at the ship's stats. Of course, the damage numbers there do not illustrate damage per second, but rather raw damage per shot of each weapon group. And of course, in the case of the turrets, that is divided in half on each side of the ship, so the turrets are doing something more like half of what you saw there. As for skills, I have rank 4 of Astrodynamics and Anutronic Fusion. And in the tech tree, I have rank 4 of Ballistic Weapons Systems. I have rank 4 of Piloting. I have rank 4 of Targeting Control Systems, rank 4 of Shield Systems, rank 4 of Payloads, and rank 4 of Engine Systems. Rank 4 of Particle Beam Weapon Systems. I have rank 1 of Robotics, but it doesn't matter. Rank 4 of Starship Design and Starship Engineering. And before I get into these fights, I'm going to go ahead and take rank 1 of Automated Weapon Systems to assist those weak turrets in doing some damage. As for my difficulty, I'm on all extreme, as you can see here. Now let's go to the key first, and then to Serpentis.
You're messing with the fleet, pal! Easy money!
Count the carrots. If you watch this whole video, I applaud you. This was my longest video by far, and it is extremely, extremely incredible to have the kind of support that I've gotten from you guys. Also, the more of my videos that you watch, the more they get pushed by YouTube search results and recommended videos, bringing more attention and support to my channel. The biggest thing you can do to help me out is to like and subscribe and leave a comment if you wish. But if you do want to donate to me more directly and help me to get some computer upgrades for higher quality content, and even to potentially push me into the realm of being able to spend more time bringing you guys more and better content. If you'd like to do so, I have links to my Patreon and PayPal in the description of this video and on my homepage. And again, if you haven't joined the Discord, I welcome you to do so. We'd be glad to have you, and I am tossing around the idea of having a ship build competition soon. So if you want to get in on that, please join the Discord, find the channel, and I hope to see you there. Thank you again so much for watching this video and my other videos, and I will see you all in the next one.